We're taking these Jack Daniels bottles and we'll put them in this D20. The question now is, can we dice it? Alright, so all these materials you're going to need for this process. It's a lot, but it's totally doable, and all the links will be below in the description of the YouTube video. This is the D20 you'll need. The first thing you want to do is take your PVC piping, tape it off at the top. Then take a hot glue gun and make a nice sealed base. The reason why you want to do this is so no silicone will leak out when it's curing. Then you want to take your scissors and cut off any extra tape so it doesn't get caught on anything when you're moving it around. Take your D20, face it down, and place it in the mold. It should look something like this. It's time to mix it up. We're using a 1:1 ratio of weight or volume. I'm doing it by weight. Take your parchment paper. This is so that we have a nice clean area, so no messes are made and it's easy cleanup. Like I said, all the links to everything I use will be in the description. You need silicone, gloves, cup, weight scale. Make sure you glove it really well so that none of this gets on your hands. And it's time to pour. I do 3.1 ounces per mix, and I pour them together. Now this next process isn't as fun. You really have to stir it for a long time, about 5 minutes. I've cut it down to a couple of seconds. After mixing, my arm was really sore. This isn't what it should look like at the end. When you pour this stuff, pour it very slow. We don't want no air bubbles building up around the D20. Okay, now it's time to toss it in the pressure chamber. The first thing you want to do is get the pressure chamber out, take the lid off. This is what I put my molds on right here. But this D20 mold is way too big, so I have to put it in by itself. Pump it full of air, 40 psi for 24 hours. Should do the trick. There's nothing more satisfying to see that gauge go up as well to see it go down. Alright, it's been 24 hours, so let's pop the sucker out and get back to work with pouring the top piece. Unscrew the hinges and it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and take it out of the mold. Now I did make a mistake, but I will address that in a second. It does take some effort to get it out, but I do eventually get it out of the mold. Take an X-Acto knife and get off the extra material. I made a silly mistake of not using Vaseline around my D20 on the top of the mold, so the tape ended up sticking to it. Alright, so after you clean it up, you toss it back in the PVC piping, and you get ready to pour the top part. Now, I learned my lesson from last time, and I am using Vaseline, so it's a lot easier to pull apart. Now, be very careful, don't get any of this on your dice, because you don't want to mess up the top mold. Glove up, get your materials ready, and here we go. Now this time, you don't need as much silicone mix. Mix it up really well, and then pour it on there nice and slow. We don't want no air bubbles whatsoever. Pour it all the way to the top so you have some weight, so when you put the mold on, it doesn't slide anywhere at all. Just like before, toss the pressure chamber at 40 psi for 24 hours. Watch that gauge go up. Best part about this whole process. And now it's time to take it out. Let the air out. And here we go. This is what it looks like. A good, nice, clean top and bottom mold for the D20. Came out looking really good. Look at that. Just beautiful. Exactly how I wanted it to go. Let's go ahead and pop the D20 out and get ready to pour some resin. Alright, so for the resin, you gotta be very careful, clean area, you don't mess this up. Because you get one shot, you do not want to waste your resin. So for this part, my scale did die, so I did have to eye the ratio, but I got it spot on pretty well. Mix it up for about 3 minutes, pour it into your resin cups. I'm using Ruby ink, put 1 dab and mix it up. I'm using white low density. Put a dab in there, mix it up. And then what you want to do now is pour a little bit of the regular resin in there. Take your Jack Daniels bottle and toss it inside. Now, I made the mistake of not letting the resin cure for a little bit so the bottles don't stick to the bottom. It's okay, live and learn, but I will be doing that next time. I might just be doing this D20. Alright, so after you put a couple bottles in there, you will take your ruby resin and pour it on top. Then take your white resin and pour it above that one. Make sure you overfill the mold. You're gonna flick it really good to get all the air bubbles out. Just to get all of the air bubbles out. Don't be afraid. Take a lighter and pop any surface air bubbles. Toss the cap on. Now what I'm also doing is taking my dice molds and doing a set with this as well. I'm pouring resin in about halfway, and then I'm putting in 1 bottle per dice mold. I had some trouble gripping the bottles with these pliers, so I said screw it as I start using my hands. And then you're gonna put some more ruby resin in there, top it off, or fulfill the mold. As well as put some resin on the top of the mold as well. Don't let any of it go to waste, because resin, I'll tell you what, is not cheap. Make sure you spread out the resin. Take a lighter, pop any surface air bubbles, toss the cap on, and put it in the pressure chamber for 40 psi for about 24 hours. Alright, day 2, or day 3 if you really think about it. Time to demold everything. This D20, I'll tell you what, is a mixture of satisfaction and disappointment. But I loved it regardless. What happened was the ice shavings and the bottles sunk to the bottom, and so it didn't come out how I wanted to. Here's a sound test.
Not too bad.
It does roll really good. Now here's the fun part, the actual dice. They came out looking amazing. I love the look on them. Just look at them. That pink to the bottle to the white. The sound is amazing. I love how they came out. Just look at them. This fun part was actually sanding, polishing, and painting the dice. But I did not enjoy it, I tell you what. It was a lot more time consuming than I thought, but the job is done. I need to buy a couple more tools to make this job and this process more efficient. But overall, here are the results. They look absolutely fantastic. I love how they look. Ooh, they sound amazing. Can't wait to use them in my next session to roll some dice and roll some damage. Thanks for watching. This was episode 1 of Can We Dice It, using some Jack Daniel bottles. Next time, we're going to switch it up and do something even more fun. Maybe some burgers, maybe a chess set, maybe some playing cards. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to the video. Take care.